Ladies and gentlemen, President Nikias, Dean Soni, esteemed faculty and trustees, thank you so much for having me here today. I need to be honest with you all. However, I truly did not want to be here speaking with you today, and I came very close to canceling. It's not that I don't love you all or I wasn't honored to be giving the baccalaureate speech. I do, and I was, very much so. I was thrilled to be asked to be the keynote speaker, and I was filled with admiration at the speakers that have come in the years before me. I'm moved by how much spirituality and interfaith harmony and dialogue are part of the fabric of USC, and to speak to spiritual themes to students is one of my favorite things in the world. Also, these robes, am I right? I mean, it's just, I've been going through a really hard time recently on a number of different levels, and I've been feeling a little bit low, a little bit less than, a little depressed and humbled and lost these days. And I'm the guy who played Dwight for all those years. I'm the big, weird, goofy guy that many of you have seen on the TV. I'm the Bears Beats Battlestar Galactica guy. So I'm supposed to be funny. I just don't feel very funny these days. And coming here in this state and pretending to be entertaining and upbeat, well, that would just be a lie. So what did I do in this situation? I tapped into the most powerful force in the universe, prayer. I communed with God, the creative force that lovingly pulses behind every atom, every molecule, everything of beauty, every act of love and service, every smile, every law of science. And the answer that eventually came to me? Nothing, really. I didn't get any divine guidance. Or a miraculous voice, but I just decided to be real with you here today, share what's going on, and share some thoughts with you that I've been having on the nature of suffering and happiness that I've been pondering over the course of this very difficult month. And perhaps some of you feel the same way as well, sitting here today, over this weekend, knowing you're supposed to be feeling hopeful, excited, and inspired, but perhaps you're feeling something a little different, maybe overwhelmed, confused, or terrified. So ultimately, I thought I'd just be honest with you, and maybe some service would come out of it, a brief help to some of you who might be suffering a little bit yourselves right now. Because ultimately, this talk is not about me, it's about you. Tomorrow, you, graduates, will be receiving a piece of paper. It's going to be one of the most important pieces of paper you ever get. And trust me, if there's one thing I know a lot about, it's paper. You'll receive some important papers over your life, too. Marriage licenses, birth certificates, a deed for your first house, the Publishers Clearinghouse lottery winner's congratulations letter, a death certificate. So what does this particular piece of paper mean? It means you've completed a certain number of courses and earned a degree, certainly. You've got some letters behind your name to put on your resume. You have something to frame on your wall. You have something for your parents to glowingly brag about to their friends. But mostly it means that you've turned a page and are on to a new chapter in your life. You're a professional now. You're no longer a student. And you may want to, armed with your piece of paper, go into the workplace and find a career. It's the American way. Am I right? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's our national motto. You want to, perhaps, as a graduate of this incredible institution, begin this pursuit of happiness. But this, my friends, is a very dangerous proposition and really the point of my talk today. I've been thinking about happiness a great deal this last difficult month, and I've really come to despise the word. Now, don't worry, I'm not turning into an old, grumpy, miserable curmudgeon. I would, as they say in college, simply like to redefine the terms. What about if we use the words joy, or contentment, or serenity, instead of happiness? Those words, to me, connote a much richer, much more lasting, much more connected human experience. Sidebar. Speaking of the Greeks, the ancient Greeks never used the words happiness in their philosophy, but used the term eudaimonia, as the thing ultimately to be pursued. Its meaning? Human flourishing. Much better than happiness, right? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of human flourishing. I can get with that. See, happiness is so fleeting. It's like an amusement park ride. It's like cotton candy. I mean, it looks so amazing. It's delightful and fluffy and pink, and you joyously eat it, and then almost immediately you regret your decision. Your fingers are sticky. You're in the rest of the day, and you're undergoing an almost immediate insulin crash from the half pound of sugar that you just sucked down. You're hungry again almost immediately, and you begin the chase again for ingestible happiness right away. Happiness in our contemporary culture is something to be chased. It's something that's just around the corner, something outside of ourselves. There's a kind of an if-then proposition about happiness. For instance, if I get a job at a top law firm, then I will be happy. If I get married to the perfect man or woman, then I will be happy. If I can become more popular, then I will be happy, etc. It's the whole point of commercialism, too, and materialism. If you buy this car, eat this cheeseburger, wear these jeans, use these headphones, then you will be happy. And you know what? Buy the jeans, eat the cheeseburger, the result is never happiness, joy, or contentment. It's always the same. We're never satisfied. It never meets our needs or fulfills our standards. We're left empty, wanting something more. It's cotton candy, fleeting, sticky, unsatisfying. And this is Rainn's law of happiness, number one. Actually, we'll call it Rainn's law of contentment, number one. And actually, for the good of my colossal ego, we'll just take my name out of it altogether. So, law of contentment, number one. You see, the search for human flourishing or happiness can be broken down into some very simple rules or laws, believe it or not. These are time-tested and proven by science, psychology, philosophy, and spirituality. And it should also be noted that just because I'm offering these laws around happiness and its brethren emotions does not mean in any way, shape, or form that I've mastered these rules. Believe me, I haven't. So, the law of contentment, number one. Happiness is not an if-then proposition. It's not something to be found outside of ourselves or even something to be pursued. It's inside of us, and it's a choice that we make. I hope you're writing this down. The Buddha spoke of this. One of his central teachings, a brilliant, divinely received perception about suffering, is that unhappiness comes from longing for the things of this world. The Buddha taught us that life is suffering. Life is dissatisfaction because we constantly long for permanence, for connection in a world that is impermanent, disconnected, changing, and decaying. We yearn and try and fill that God-shaped hole in us with stuff that is going to die, get sick, get old, fall apart, and eventually disappear, including ourselves. Suffering, in the word of Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, is attachment, grasping, desiring. And the secret to happiness? Simple, non-attachment. You see, it's desire itself that brings us unhappiness. Desirelessness can set us free. So we'll call this the law of contentment, number two. Desire for the things of this world leads to dissatisfaction. Non-attachment to our egos, to stuff, to results, leads to joy. That initial desire for the cotton candy is what will bring the essential letdown we feel after we eat it. Now, I'm a member of the Bahai faith, and as a Bahai, I believe in the divinity and sacredness of all the world's great spiritual teachers and messengers. We read the holy writings of all the manifestations of God, such as Krishna, Abraham, the Buddha, Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad. And now, for this day and age, Baha'is follow Baha'u'llah, whose name means the glory of God, who proclaimed his divine, world-inspiring mission in 1863 in Persia. His son, Abdul-Baha, spoke much on happiness, joy, and contentment, and this is one of my favorite quotes. Happiness consists of two kinds, physical and spiritual. The physical happiness is limited. Its utmost duration is 1 day, 1 month, 1 year. It hath no result. Spiritual happiness is eternal and unfathomable. This kind of happiness appeareth in one's soul with the love of God. Therefore, endeavor as much as thou art able in order to illuminate the lamp of thy heart by the light of love. We are, to quote the Jesuit priest Dujardin, Not human beings having a spiritual experience, but spiritual beings having a human experience. The more we remember this, the more joyous we can ultimately be. And this is backed up by science. Many psychologists have found that those who are spiritually engaged are far happier than those who are not. Abdu'l-Baha says again, man is, in reality, a spiritual being, and only when he lives in the spirit is he truly happy. So this is law of contentment number 3. Live in the spirit, the spiritual, the divine part of who you are, and you will find true satisfaction. Live in your soul. My all-time favorite quote from Jesus Christ is, "For what shall it profit a man if he should gain the whole world and lose his soul?" And I hope, for your soul's sake, that this piece of paper you're getting tomorrow leads you on a quest to find your soul, and not on a journey to try and gain the whole world. Or the Clippers. For my next rule of happiness, I turn to the ancient holy pages of Soul Pancake. That's the name of my digital media company, book, and YouTube channel. And one of the shows we recently produced online is called The Science of Happiness, and it's about the concept of gratitude. You see, we live in a culture of complaint. Do you ever notice how much scarcity and cynicism we tend to live in? Have you ever been in a group of people and maybe you come up and you say, "Oh, my English exam was so hard." And almost immediately someone else will chime in and say, "Well, you think that was hard? You should have seen my history test. It was 35 pages long, took 2 hours." And then someone else will take up the baton and say, "Well, my physics test took 3 days and was like 87 pages long and size 8 font. And everyone in class got an F and their eyes began to bleed." Complaint is easy. Cynicism is a very easy fallback position. Gratitude takes some work, but has a much greater payoff. Science has discovered that one of the best ways to find contentment is by feeling and expressing gratitude. And as I've been in this very difficult time, all I need to do sometimes to lift myself out of it is to think of something I'm grateful for. It's just that easy. It just takes seconds. It can be the simplest thing. This breath, the beauty of this theater, my health, your radiant faces, Steve Carell's nose. And the real trick to find joy is the next step. Share it. Tell someone you love, or better yet, someone that you hate. Tell them what you're grateful about them. Students, tell your parents tomorrow something about them that you love. Share of your heart and watch it soar. Let's try it right now. Little experiment. Let's take a few seconds from my brief talk here to take a deep breath. Let's breathe. And think of one thing that you're truly grateful for. Can you feel even briefly that little puff of joy that floated over your hearts? We'll call this the law of contentment number 4. Have an attitude of gratitude. And for law of contentment number 5, we're going to go back to that fountain of wisdom, the Buddha, who 2,600 years ago said, "The secret of health for both mind and body is not to mourn for the past, not to worry about the future, or not to anticipate troubles, but to live in the present moment wisely and earnestly." We Westerners in 2014 spend most of our lives and our time living in our heads and on our phones. We are not truly present in our lives very much of the time. We're either pondering the past and regretting it, which, truth be told, I've been spending a lot of time doing that this past month, or living in anxiety about the future, which is where I've been spending the rest of my time this past month. And this is the mystery that sages, mystics, monks, and Oprah Winfrey have been searching after for centuries. The ineffable moment when everything we need is right here, right now. Right? It's probably for me. The past and future are illusions. One is a dream, and the other, well, it just hasn't happened yet. Life is really only available to you in the present moment. Meditation, breathing, and mindfulness are tools to help you find this mysterious moment. So this is the law of contentment number 5. Be here now. Strive to live in the moment with each breath. The past and the future are simply anxious illusions. Now, there are countless other insights to be found about contentment and happiness and eudaimonia in the writings and teachings of the prophets, the philosophers, the poets, and the scientists as well. Too many to go into this evening, but I'm going to end with this one, service. Shoghi Effendi, the great Bahai leader and writer, once said, "The more we search for ourselves, the less likely we are to find ourselves. The more we search for God and try and serve our fellow men, the more profoundly will we become acquainted with ourselves and the more inwardly assured. This is one of the great spiritual laws of life." And this is something scientists have found as well. Self-esteem, well-being, spiritual connectedness, life satisfaction, meaning, a sense of community, all these tangible things are experienced and brought to light by service to others. Volunteering, helping, showing kindness, sacrificing your time and energy, giving selflessly, these are the things that will give you the greatest human flourishing. And what a strange dichotomy in this me culture we live in. Focus on yourself, you find only misery, grasping, depression, emptiness, dissatisfaction. Focus on helping others, joy, contentment, gratitude, happiness, and buckets and buckets of eudaimonia await you. So law of contentment number 6, the greatest meaning you will ever experience in life you will find in service to others. And ultimately, when I prayed about whether to do this talk or not, I came to this same conclusion. If I could in some way say anything, something that might be of service to some young person about to turn the page on the next chapter of their life, I should do it. I should be here, sharing what I've discovered in my own strange, very flawed life, despite my problems, my issues, and my angst, because I might offer one thing that might help one person. So, young Trojans, as you stop grasping for something outside of yourself, as you strive to live in your spiritual selves and know that the material world will only yield sorrow, as you seek to live in the moment and to express gratitude every single day, know that ultimately it is in giving to others, in kindness and selflessness, that your greatest joy will be found. So go forth, young men and women, spiritual beings all, with your pieces of paper, your souls and your hearts. Go forth and undertake our new national motto, life, liberty, and the pursuit of service, and your lives will be the richer for it. Thank you.